Funding provided by the Richard P. Garmany Fund at the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving.
Hi, I'm Ray Hardman. On this episode of Where Art Thou, we are making our way through the northwest corner of Connecticut, specifically the Litchfield Hills. You'd be surprised how many musicians, artists, artisans are tucked away in these hills, and I want to learn more about them. Now, to help us do that, we have on the line our Litchfield Where Art Thou curator, Steph Burr. Steph is the executive director of the Northwest Connecticut Arts Council, and she's also a well-known artist in her own right. Steph, are you there?
Yeah, hi Ray, how are you?
I'm doing great. How you doing today?
Good, doing great.
So I'm here in Litchfield County, a beautiful drive, a beautiful day. Where are you taking us first?
Torrington, how do you feel about animation?
Love animation.
Great, well, I'm sending you out to see Jasmine Bailey. She is a local illustrator and animator, and she's a young artist who's doing amazing things.
Great. Tell me a little bit about her art. What does her art look like?
Her art is very colorful, fun, and whimsical.
Yeah?
And she creates these cute characters and worlds for them to live in. And get this, she's also a musician and makes all the soundtracks and sound effects for her animation.
Oh, she sounds fascinating. A multi-talented artist we're going to see.
Absolutely.
All right, well, I'm going to make my way to Torrington. Steph, we'll talk in a bit. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Ray.
All right, let's check it out. We are here in downtown Torrington. Torrington is this old factory town, and you can really get a sense of the manufacturing past here. Some of the old manufacturing buildings are still here. They've been repurposed as retail or office, or in lots of cases, artist galleries and artist studios. You really get a sense of Torrington's manufacturing past when you're here. Jasmine usually creates her art in a very small studio about 10 minutes away. We're meeting here at the 5 Points Gallery, and we want to make sure that we keep a good social distance with each other. And right now, here she is, Jasmine. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. I was just saying that you love working in this small space that you've created for yourself. Why is that?
I like being squished. I think that having a small space is a lot better than being in something that's really large. There's more space to fill. I think it's just more creative if you've got more spots.
So it's more conducive for you to create?
Yeah, definitely.
I like it. All right, well, I'm excited to see what you got. Let's go inside.
Sounds good.
All right. Ah. Jasmine, this is incredible. Safe to say you're pretty into fantasy.
Yes.
Tell me about some of these.
So I really like to create creatures.
Yeah.
As you can see, little ones there, all over the place. This is a pygmite. It's an original character that I came up with, and they live in the forests, and I don't quite know what they do yet, but there's one now.
Yeah. You're not afraid to use color.
No, and I used to be.
Is that right?
Yeah, when I first started. So I started drawing like 3 years ago. When I first started, it was all black and white, and I never wanted to use color. And now, if I draw something, and this one had to be black and white before it got color on it, and I was like, oh, I can't keep that like that. I have to add some color to it. So it's been really interesting to experience that shift in thinking.
How long have you been drawing?
So I started this seriously about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But before that, no matter what it was, like in high school, if we had a project in English class, I would find some way to make it an art project somehow. And the first portion of my life, I was actually a musician. And there's a different person who's supposed to be standing before you today, and she's not an artist, she's a saxophone player. But, things happen, and you take paths and you find out, well, maybe you don't actually want to do that.
Is technique something that really interests you?
I think in terms of technique, it's about getting better at it. And then this kind of just happens along the way, and it's really cool. And then it's really fun to combine things. So, like, this is the first time that I had used a dip pen and then combined it with markers, and you can just see that, like, it has a texture to it. So I suppose the technique is part of the inspiration, definitely.
Great. Well, I'm really excited to see you draw something. You want to do that now?
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, great. Jasmine, is this typically how you start a piece?
Yeah, I usually start with a circle. Everything kind of starts with a circle. And I think you can see in a lot of my work, it's very round.
What are you making right now?
A little creature. I don't know who he is, but he's creeping.
Jasmine, are you the kind of artist that kind of goes on jags where you'll be all involved in one particular theme or one particular way of doing things for a few weeks and then you switch and you're onto something else?
I think that possibly very accurately describes who I am. But maybe not necessarily on themes, but on mediums. So like I'll go long stretches using just marker, I'll go long stretches using just gouache, whatever the medium might be.
Yeah. So it's not, for instance, you went through a mushroom phase or something like that.
Oh no, I am fully within the mushrooms.
You're still in the mushroom phase.
And I really, again, love to bring my characters into real life. And so whether that's with needle felting, whether that's with clay, or I've also recently gotten to woodworking, which is very fun. I just love to be able to, like, touch these things. In my studio, I made a clay pigmite. He actually is my business card holder. And it's just really fun and cool to see them exist in the same space that I am.
Yeah.
A lot of these creatures, I would like to think that they kind of exist on my shoulder, and they're just kind of hanging out, seeing what I'm doing.
How has the pandemic been for you?
I feel like I am thriving. Like, it was very difficult at first, kind of just to get used to things. But I don't have to make excuses about, like, oh, I don't want to do this thing because I actually want to stay home and be in my studio and working. And so it's always been that when I come home from work, I'm just in the studio, but now it's like nothing else exists because there isn't anything else to do.
Yeah.
So that's been cool.
Tell me more about your animation.
It was my senior capstone project. I did, it's called Star Story. And it was the first time that I had combined both art and music. And it was just really awesome. And like I said, I really enjoy bringing my worlds to life. And I feel like if you were to ask me, like, Jasmine, what does sunshine look like, or what does happiness look like, or what does, like, questions like those, I can't draw it, but I can show it through movement, if that makes sense. And so I feel like whenever I have something that so moves me to tell, I also make it move.
Interesting.
On my website, I have a clip. It's called I Just Want a Puppy. And I recorded and performed and wrote the lyrics, and I was going through my files one day, and I was like, oh, this would be nice to create something too. So I decided to animate a little scene with it. So that's what I did with it. But it took so much time. And it's so simple. You would think that it would just be really quick, but it actually ended up taking me about 12 hours worth of work to do, just sitting there. But I'm never discouraged by how long something takes. In fact, if anything, while I'm doing it, I'm like, this is awesome, because you're creating something and it's coming to life right in front of your eyes. And so the journey is difficult, but the end result is really something to be quite proud of.
I just want a puppy to be my very best friend. We'd be the best of friends forever until the very end. Even when you're gone, I know that I will love you so much still. None could ever make me happy quite like a puppy will.
You create every day?
I do, every single day.
That's awesome.
And it's not always drawing, it's not always animating. Sometimes it's music, sometimes it's learning. Learning, I think, is is maybe not necessarily a form of creating, but it's definitely a big part of my process. I love to learn. I've got such a thirst for knowledge.
Let's talk about your music.
Okay.
Does your music kind of reflect this kind of fantasy world that you create?
Oh, no, absolutely not. I feel like my music doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the art that I create. There's so many parallels between art and music, and exploring both of them sometimes is... It's like doing one, but you can't do the other at the same time, I suppose.
I know you brought along some of your electronics. Do you want to break those out and we can have a listen?
Yeah, that would be great.
All right, great. I've seen synthesizers before, and I'm starting to see a theme with you, because these are the smallest little synthesizers I've ever seen. Tell me about these little instruments.
They're actually, I would call them more sequencers than I would call them synthesizers.
Okay.
They have set sounds, but you can change the parameters on them. There's 16 steps. With those 16 steps, there's 16 sounds, so you can place the sounds anywhere on this grid.
Okay.
And so as the sequencer runs, it goes through that grid and plays the sounds.
Neat. Well, show me how they work.
All right. So this one's called the Pocket Opera Arcade. So those are all the sounds that it makes. And something that I kind of like to do that's fun is, because it's a step sequencer, let's pick a sound. And so, like, I'll press a whole bunch of buttons sometimes.
Yep.
And then I'll do the same thing. I'll change the notes that they are.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and you do it until you get something that you like. So that's just that one by itself.
Jasmine, you've got to be one of the most creative people I've ever known. I mean, just all the different things that you do. This is amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for sharing it with us.
And thank you for allowing me to share it with you.
Of course. Best of luck to you.
Thank you so much.
Well, that was absolutely incredible. Jasmine's such a creative person. I tell you what, let's keep the spirit of vibrant colors and whimsy going into our arts business segment. For that, we're going to go deep into the Litchfield Hills to the little town of Bantam and the Bantam Tileworks.
Well, my name is Darin Ronning.
My name's Travis Messenger.
This is Bantam Tileworks. We started out as a handmade tile shop in 2005. We kind of expanded into dishes and more takeaways, but everything is made right here in Litchfield County. Even our clay comes from only 30 miles away. It's just a local business.
We started out in a small factory, just a kiln and just experimenting with color, and then kind of grew from there. We're in a smaller space, and after a few years we got to expand, and people just kept discovering us and have now a national reach. So
Actually international.
International.
We lived in New York for 15 years before coming to Connecticut, and it was by chance I took a class at Parsons in handmade tile making, and it caught. You know, I was working on Wall Street and hated it, and this was the right move to make. The best source of training is just trial and error.
It's
we
just
spent
over and over and over.
2 years just testing everything. All of our glazes were tested for 2 years. We actually have 10,000 color tests upstairs, cataloged, that we go and reference all the time.
We start with a chunk of clay and we roll it out flat, and there's a slab roller we have here, so we can adjust the thickness. It becomes just one big slab, which we put on these big boards and then end up drying them and cutting them into whatever size and shape people want.
Usually, if truly first-timers, they come in, they think tile shop. They don't know what it means, like our take on it. And they usually stop cold, and they look around, and they're just, especially if they come through the back door, and they're like, what is this? You know, like it's fun. And then they get to come in and they see people working and making the tile that we sell. You know, half the times if they come in the front door, they'll say, oh, it's beautiful, where's it made? And I'm like, just keep going, you know, 20 more feet, you can see it.
some people come and visit their tiles
As they're being
weekly,
made.
or as they like, okay, come here now. It's
They
drying.
really do, yeah.
Now it's,
and they'll
now
bring
it's
their friends in
inspiring.
to see the tile being made too.
Yeah.
They're like, can we see ours again? You know, and it's like, yes, you can see it.
We do have some things that are in stock that are ready to go, like the takeaway items, clearly. But
Tile is
for the
all
tile,
made to order.
It's all made to order. Yeah. We have standard colors here, but the fun part is when we make really fun shapes. Most people do standard, squares or rectangles, but
Yeah, especially for commercial projects, they like to expand. A restaurant or a hotel will do a lot bolder choice and shape and color.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the fun part too. We actually only have one artist, Karen. She carves everything as she just envisions it. She actually spends more time drawing the animal, 4 or 5 days, and then she'll sit down and carve it in 45 minutes. It's pretty crazy.
You have designs of animals on all these tiles. That is really something special.
We did a whole kitchen outdoor in Florida
Just
where she lined the
all the way
whole
around,
perimeter
yeah.
with 65 animals.
and she got endangered species of Florida. She
commissioned special ones. She made
them special for her. Yeah.
That's the fun part. When someone comes with a vision, we get to make it happen. We just finished a 6-month project for a hotel in London, but it's like you're putting together thousands of pieces and you're like, how's it gonna look? And then we laid it all out before it shipped, and it was like, oh wow, it's really cool.
Yeah, I think occasionally we get to go into a space like that, a hotel or a restaurant, and you just see the impact of the color that they chose or the shape, or it's fun to experience your own work surrounding you.
And just as fun to see how happy the homeowner is too. They're like, look at what you did for my house. It's just a great feeling.
All right, we've got one last stop here on this gorgeous day in the Litchfield Hills. Let's check in with our Where Art Thou Litchfield curator, Steph Burr, to see where we're headed next. Steph, are you there?
Yeah, hi Ray. How was Bantam Tileworks?
Bantam Tileworks was amazing. I want animal tiles in every room in my house now. That was a great tip. So where are you taking us next?
All right, so next we're going to Gunbrook Farm in Cornwall to meet choreographer Paula Josa Jones.
Okay, well, that sounds intriguing. We're going to meet a choreographer at a farm and not a dance studio.
Yeah, so Gunbrook is actually a boarding and training facility for horses. And Paula works with the horses and uses them in some of her choreography.
Okay, wait. So the horses actually participate in the choreography?
They do, exactly. And the horses even dance with human dancers as well.
Well, I've never heard of such a thing. I'm super intrigued right now. Steph, great picks today. Thanks so much for your help.
Thanks, Ray. Enjoy.
All right, let's check it out. We are here at Gunbrook Farm with Paula Josa Jones, choreographer. Paula, thanks for letting us come here and see what you do.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
I have so many questions for you because this is an art form that I've just never, ever heard of. So fascinating. There's really something dramatic about the delicacy of the human body against this big,
Yeah.
magnificent beast, also working, in tandem with the human body.
Absolutely. I had ridden as a child, then I started riding again. I was living on Martha's Vineyard at the time. And I got in the saddle and I was like, this is awesome. It's great. I love the feeling of it. But I also wanted to get out of the saddle and I wanted to stand on the ground, and I wanted, as a mover, as a dancer, as someone who expresses through movement, it's our primary language, I really wanted to see, my curiosity was like, well, how can I be understood, and what will I understand if we're just speaking, all of our hooves on the ground in this language of movement. And horses don't do kind of arbitrary movement. I mean, dancers do all the time. I mean, we do movement that's not functional. They're all about function, right? So that's an interesting meeting place. And so I just started to explore, and then I brought a couple dancers down from Boston, which is where my company was based at the time.
It's almost like you never really could train enough to make that easy.
All of us were just like, this is something. This is really something. We loved it. We loved what we were understanding. We loved what we were feeling coming from the horse and the way in which those conversations develop.
What you're doing is beautiful, and just, yeah, that's it, Dana.
When we first started doing this work, we really had to, we couldn't throw our arms up in the air. We couldn't run near the horse because they're flight animals. So their survival depends upon their ability either to protect themselves or to get away. And then as the horses got used to us and more comfortable with us, and in fact, curious, like, oh, this is interesting, then we could begin to develop more proximity. We could do touch, put our hands on them. We could begin to move more quickly. We could be more, expressive and quick in our movements without upsetting them. But that was a long process and really a learning trajectory for me to figure, for all of us really, to figure that out.
When you're working with the horses, is every technique the same?
Absolutely not. They're all different. Every single one is different. Some of them are much more comfortable and they're easier around humans, and that's just, we're all wired a little bit differently, and it's the same with horses, which is part of, for me, the interest, because each one offers a different way of working, through movement. So that, I love that.
I'm just blown away by that.
Yeah, me too. I continue to be blown away by it. I continue to be fascinated by it. I think a lot of times horses get into bad situations, like Izara ending up in a kill pen because she wasn't working out for whoever the owner was at that time. And a lot of times the horses really get abused, really punished for what are actually very clear and honest responses to a situation. There are horses that can be aggressive, but often that aggression has come out of a history of abuse or a history of being handled or pushed in a way that they can't contain. And the horses don't have a voice, and they don't have a choice. So the heart of my work is to make things better for the horses by helping humans understand more clearly how can I work with this being that I'm so drawn to, but who is of such a different physicality and different emotional makeup than me. Horses are hot and some are cooler in their temperament. I brought Izara into my life. She was very, clearly very hot, but she was really responsive to movement. So I thought, oh, cool, she's a dancer.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more there than I understood.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because we were supposed to come a few weeks back. Well, maybe you can explain what happened.
Well, yeah, I was bringing her into a little round pen so that we could let her be at liberty and then do some very easy kind of non-challenging movements with her. But as I started to bring her down, I could feel her kind of getting a little worked up. I brought her into the round pen and I reached over to close the gate and she ran me over big time. So I got kicked in the head twice, number of injuries. I mean, it was really like a shattering of a kind of trust that I thought I had built with her.
Yeah.
And so I'm having to, as they say in Buddhism, begin again, right? When you get derailed in your focus and in your direction, to be willing to kind of absolutely go back to a beginning, whatever that beginning might be. And you saw that I did walk in. I was able to touch her. I was able to, offer her my hand. And I think that's great. She just got worried, and I'm not sure what the trigger was, but it was enough for her to need to get away.
Why is it important for you to get back and reconnect with Azara?
Well, that makes me feel weepy. I feel like that's my promise to her, is that I will take care of her, and I will start again, and I will do my best to really listen to her and ask, can you listen to me? Is this okay? Is this okay? Is this okay? And begin to gradually build up the trust and the enjoyment of each other's presence again.
Yeah. Well, Paula Josa Jones, this has just been such a fascinating little slice of art that I just didn't know existed.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to share it.
Well, just an incredible day here in Northwest Connecticut. I hope you enjoyed it. It's people like Paula and Jasmine that make this part of the state so special. Maybe there's someone in your town, in your neighborhood, that's doing amazing creative things. Well, we want to hear about it. Drop us a line at whereartthou@ctpublic.org. Join me next week. I'm going to go back into that beat-up old company van and head out on another great adventure. Until then, I'm Ray Hartman. Thanks for watching Where Art Thou?
Funding provided by the Richard P. Garmany Fund at the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving.